Welcome to Shiny New Clients, the marketing podcast that helps you attract shiny new clients to your business. We'll talk about social media, what makes people buy, how to go viral, and marketing psychology, all in 20 minutes or less. Whether you're a coach, a stylist, or a wedding planner, if you've got a service-based business to sell, this is the show you need to fill your calendar. I'm Jenna Warner, your new marketing coach, and this is Shiny New Clients. Did you know that I used to be a publicist? I used to be a publicist, and I worked under this really cool publicist out of LA, and it was one of the most stressful jobs that I've ever had. But I feel like learning about publicity and learning about PR is so important as a business owner. And funny enough, I've met so many business owners that don't actually know what those words mean. So if you don't know what those words mean either, you are in exactly the right place. If you do know what they mean and you want to get in on that, you are also in the right place, because today I have a special guest on the show. In just a second, I'm going to introduce you to Gloria Chou, who is a former TV producer and U.S. diplomat who works extensively with unknown and early stage small business founders to help them get their stories into top tier news outlets like New York Times. Ever heard of it? Wall Street Journal. Ever heard of it? One of her claims to fame is she has cold called her way to gaining 1 billion organic views for small businesses. She's created a proven pitching framework that has helped thousands of scrappy entrepreneurs get their message out to more people. She's going to tell you more about that. And she's on a mission to make PR accessible, no matter the size of your biz, no matter if you've launched yet, no matter if you're funded. She's a PR coach and host of the podcast Small Business PR. Let me introduce you to Gloria Chou.
Yay. Thank you, Jenna. I'm so excited to be here.
Tell us literally everything.
When you think of PR, you think like, ooh, that's for like politicians or celebrities. And it's almost this kind of like, ugh, like I either can't afford it or it's for, people who need a crisis mediation.
Like Olivia Pope.
Yeah. It's like you need PR, there's something troubling. And I think there's a lot of mystery around it now because, with influencers and quote unquote fake writers that are not really writers. And so I think we need to define what PR is. So for me, PR is that organic earned media where you're not like paying a journalist at the New York Times or Apartment Therapy or Vogue to write about you, but you position yourself in a way where they want to have you be an expert, right? Whether it's a quote or it could be a longer form story. It could even be a podcast. Like right now I'm on your podcast. So that is what I mean by that earned organic PR. And I think in this year, there's no other marketing activity that's as important because it's the only thing that drives organic SEO. SEO is a key word right now, right? Powerful backlinks back to your website, being ranked on Google. And it also builds that trust and credibility. I always say, marketing is you talking about you and PR is your industry talking about you.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
And as small business owners, even if you make a product or not, a lot of times people are like, well, I don't need PR. I'm more of a behind the scenes girly. And it's like, well, no one's asking you to be on live TV, but you need to step into that frequency and acknowledge that your business needs you to be its number one spokesperson and to pitch for it. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. The very easy, simple ways that even if you're a behind the scenes girly, even if you're an introvert, how you can give your business the leverage, the SEO, the traffic and credibility that it needs so that you can get more sales easily. We want to build that long-term ROI. And that's exactly what PR allows you to do.
It's so interesting. So you're kind of saying it's not just about being on breakfast television and the X number of people who are sitting there that morning in front of their TV watching you on breakfast television. It's about the backlinks and then being able to put the logo for breakfast television on your website and the authority that gives you and the SEO that can help drive to your website. Like it's almost more like an ecosystem. It's not about just that one moment of 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah. And if you learn how to do PR in this way, which we're going to show you, which is you doing it and taking it in-house, yes, you can delegate it to an assistant. But once you learn how to do this, you gain a skill for life because you're like, oh my gosh, there's a blue ocean of opportunities for me to get featured. And I'll tell you why most people don't do it this way is because for decades, the PR industry have shrouded PR in some kind of exclusive cool kids club where it's like, you got to pay us $5 to 10 grand a month for 6 months so we can call up our buddies. And so they've really profited off of this and they made it seem like, well, for the, business owner, unless you know someone, unless you pay a lot of money, you're just not going to get seen. My people are mainly small businesses. They're mainly women of color. Privilege and access are things that we're not born into. And so when I talk about PR, this is so much more than just getting a logo. It's really sacred work. It's about feeling safe to be seen in places maybe you don't see yourself reflected. And there's a lot of generational work there. And so this absolutely is so important, more than just a logo on your website. It's learning how to advocate for yourself.
In your process, which I know we're going to get to, but in your process, how much of it is like internal work? Because that comes up a lot on this podcast. I'm always trying to be like, here's point A to point C and step by step in strategy. But anyone who comes on here who has found success can't help but talk about the mindset and the inner work. It's like so undeniable, which I love.
Yeah, it really is, because I think a lot of times you think, well, I'm too early for PR, or I don't have a celebrity influencer, or I don't have VC dollars. And, from cold pitching thousands of times. And actually now we have these journalists like from Good Morning America and Business Insider coming into our program. I always ask them, does it matter how many followers they have? And they always say, no, it's not a popularity contest, because you can also buy your followers. But what matters is like having an angle that's relevant. And no, you don't have to do groundbreaking things. Everything is kind of a remix. So it's really about knowing what to pitch for the season. So I want you to know, like, for your audience, instead of thinking about like talking to the journalist like you would to your customer. So don't talk about your benefits and features. Know that the journalist is never going to buy from you. So we need to take off our marketing hat and put on a different way of communicating. And what does that mean? It means that you need to start asking yourself a different set of questions, like, what is trending in my industry? What are some of the predictions of what is going to be big? What are some of the big things happening in the news that I can kind of newsjack and ride that wave? What are some of the, insights or data points or seasonalities? I don't care if you make a fidget spinner or if you're a lawyer, there's always some kind of seasonality to what you're in. And, if you can bring in maybe like a regulatory angle, if you're in finance, healthcare, care, or legal, that's always going to be relevant. So it's really about relevancy. How can we pitch with relevancy and specificity so that the story works for that point in time for the journalist?
It's almost like instead of talking to the journalist, like you're trying to get them to do you a favor, what favors can you do for them? How can you make this interesting to them and to their audience and for them? And then you get obviously a benefit. It's a mutual benefit.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be interesting, like, oh, so I'll give you an example. We have someone who was a Pilates teacher, and she got featured in an article in 2023 titled, "What is Pilates?" And so there are people reading the news and news cycle for every level, from beginner to advanced. And a lot of times we think, well, I have nothing interesting to say, or I have nothing to contribute. That's the main thing we need to just throw it out, because a news cycle is 24/7. They need content. So why have it not be you? But there is a way to pitch that makes it concise, that makes it easy on the eyes for the journalist to make a decision of, okay, yes, I want to hear more, or maybe later. And I think we're just not taught that. And from cold pitching, because remember, I never worked a day in any PR firm. I cold called from Googling New York Times newsroom and had phone slammed in my face. I started to pick up on patterns on when someone would answer my pitch or not. And I put it into a framework called my CPR Pitching Framework, which stands for credibility, point of view, and relevance. And you always want to start your pitch with relevance. I don't care if it's a LinkedIn DM, if it's over text, if it's over phone or email, because you want to capture the journalist's attention right away. Because what is news if it's not relevant? So right now at the time of recording, it's Q4, Q1. I love this time because there's a lot of end of year, what did we learn? And new year predictions, what's going to be trending. Those are great ways to make your pitch relevant for the journalist. And then after the relevance, you're going to tie in some point of view. It's usually 3 bullet points, three tips, 3 insights, 3 things. It could be, 3 ways to interpret X, Y, and Z. That's your point of view. And then you want to conclude the email with credibility, which is just 1 or 2 sentences. Don't go crazy here, about why you are in a position to pitch this angle. Maybe this is a solution that you found as a homeschooling mom, or maybe you're just passionate about fitness, or maybe you created this hot sauce because you traveled to Thailand and you realized that this wasn't available in the US. Whatever that is, right? 1 or 2 sentences. If you make a product, put 1 photo and then use hyperlinks so they can find out more. Do not attach your unwritten biography or a pitch deck. Boom, there you have it. That's really kind of the framework of a winning pitch.
It's so funny, but like simple things like the pitch deck being a PDF. Because when I was working in PR, we were doing film festivals and your inbox is a nightmare and you're dealing with people's assistants. And I would have email chains that were like 80 emails long. So if people are sending you PDFs, quick because you're getting like your inbox is getting full and they're all over the place. And so I learned that lesson in just a simple way from being on the receiving end of all of that information. Like, don't send it to people if they don't want it and it clogs their inbox and then they resent you.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. I mean, and the thing is like, we don't know what to say. So a lot of times we just want to put everything in the pitch and it takes some time, right? So it's a way of writing. I always think about pitch writing like in layer of an onion, you're trying to peel so that you can get to the juicy core. So the top layer, everyone starts off very general, very, very fluffy, like, wellness tips. Okay. That's not specific. So let's peel away layer of an onion. Wellness tips for women. Okay. A little bit more specific. Let's peel it again. Wellness tips for women over 50. Okay. That's good. What about more? Wellness tips for midlife women with long COVID. Like, do you see how it just gets more and more better the more you peel away the layer of an onion? So just imagine every time you're writing, everyone starts off with a very generalized pitch. The more you can peel away the onion, the more you're going to get to that juicy core. And that's often what the journalist is looking for, something very specific and relevant.
Yeah. And people get so scared of specificity because that's a rule in social media marketing too. And in marketing and in niching and messaging and all of that. We worry that by being specific, we're limiting ourselves. But really, you're making the most perfect people feel exactly at home and like they're getting what they want from you.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not, again, I always say like, you're not a McDonald's, right? Like you're not for everyone. With pitch writing it's even more. It's like, it's just one article out of many articles that you're going to be on. And so it's okay to be very specific, but remember, think about the season that you're in. If you're in fitness, you're not going to pitch something that's like winter exercise. If it's summertime. If you're in skincare, you're not going to pitch like this really heavy moisturizer in the spring when people are looking for refreshing and like citrus scents. So we just have to know what the seasonalities are, what people are looking for, and just simply offering up a point of view for that.
How do you yourself kind of stay tapped? Well, probably a lot of it's second nature, but how do you stay tapped into the zeitgeist? For people who are listening who are like, well, I'm not like tapped into pop culture and maybe they don't like subscribe to different magazines and newspapers. What should we do to kind of keep our finger on the pulse?
Well, I always say like, you don't have to be a pop culture connoisseur, but if you are on Instagram, you know what's trending, right? So I know like Taylor Swift's tour was really trending. So if you're in apparel, it could be like, here's a suggestion on what to wear for your next Taylor Swift concert, like whatever that is. White Lotus was really big on HBO. So there's a lot of things for travel to Italy and white linens and things like that. If you're in food and wine, it could be something with, remember the show The Bear on HBO? So on Hulu. So there's always a way you could make it trending. Even on TikTok and social media, that is your newsfeed right there. But if you want to do something, one extra step, what you can do is install a Google News Alert, which is free. You type in the search bar, Google News Alert with your keywords, and it'll ping you with all the articles written about in your industry. And so then you start to think in terms, not of benefits and features, but of what are the subject lines and what are the articles? And you just become better and better at pitching that.
That is so fun. It's creative, right? Even you, when you're coming up with these ideas off the top of your head, you like light up. It's like, what can we create? What can we offer? What cool piece of content can we help a journalist collaborate with us on and then serve to the people?
Another one I like is a contrarian angle. So if everyone is telling you to do X, Y, and Z, and you found that this ABC is working better, then pitch that. I'll give you an example. We had someone who is a communication coach for introverts, and she actually just brought up like a third-party data, which is another way to pitch. A third-party data that, it's a research survey that actually said that introverts are better suited for these specific C-level positions in the boardroom, which is like contrarian, right? Because like you don't think about that usually. And she pitched that and she got on Introvert Dear, Huffington Post, and a bunch of different places. And so don't be afraid to use data. Don't be afraid to be contrarian. Don't be afraid to take a different point of view.
Amazing. So on top of your CPR strategy, what kind of nuts and bolts do people get when they work with you? Let's just make this an infomercial. I think it's fascinating. But what sort of nuts and bolts do you give people to help like put all this into action?
Yeah. So, from literally hacking it from the outside and getting rejected thousands of times, I realized like at its core, PR is just knowing how to write a pitch and knowing who to send it to.
Yeah.
So you need to write a good pitch and you need to have a media list of the people who are going to write about you. And it's not info@buzzfeed.com or media@forbes.com. It's the specific writer who's covering your beat, whether it's parenting, sustainability, beauty, whatever that is. If you make product, it could be the shopping editor who writes gift guides. And so we need to have that data. And you can do that yourself, right? With a Google News Alert, as easy as copy and pasting their name and adding it onto your ever expanding Excel spreadsheet. But in my program, for people who are doing it this way, I have a database of 100,000 journalists across 150 beats or industries. And then I have a pitch templates of over 50 industries, whether it's baking or skincare, or if you're a sexologist or a mixologist, you can learn the CPR method and simply plug your business in kind of Mad Lib style. And I actually also bring the top 1% of journalists from Good Morning America, from Forbes, to come in to meet you. Actually, tomorrow we have the shopping editor at InStyle, People, Food and Wine, Travel and Leisure coming in. So it's giving you access so that you can do this for yourself. And we teach you how to delegate it so that you're constantly planting those seeds. Because here's the thing, if you hire an agency to do it, I'm not saying that no one should. If you have the bandwidth, if you're a startup, yes, go ahead, right? For most of us, we don't have that. So the thing is, you need to learn who the people are, and you want to make connections with the journalists, because the moment you stop paying the agency, they walk away and you start with zero. The whole point of doing a PR this way is not only do you become a better writer, but you get to own those connections with the editor. You get to cultivate a relationship with them so that they can write about you over and over again.
That is so exciting. It really does feel accessible. And as someone who, for a blip, for just a couple of years was in this industry, I'm just like, yeah, that makes perfect sense, except better. Like, that's all we were doing, looking for angles and emailing people, looking for angles and emailing people and talking up why our clients would matter to them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's a different way of positioning, right? Because the journalist is not stupid. They know that you don't really want to pay for an ad and you want this for your business, but you can't just right off the bat say that. It's really about leading with the story or the insight first.
Story, even just the word story. We know it's called a news story, but are you telling a story? Right?
Yeah. Are you telling a story or benefits and features? And look, there's nothing wrong with that. So if you have a product, you should put your benefits and features, but the context is through the lens of what's relevant. Is it back to school? You're not going to give them all 50 products. You're going to choose the one that's perfect for that season.
You make it sound so easy, which I love because that's what you're trying to do.
Access.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so who should find you and where should they do that? And when actually should they do that?
I'm a pretty open book. I share a lot about my life, a lot of raw and honest things on my Instagram at Gloria Chou PR. That's Gloria CHOU PR. And I have a free PR masterclass that actually shows you word for word a CPR pitch from the subject line to the last sentence that got someone featured 12 times. You can watch that at gloriachoupr.com/masterclass. You can start doing this on your own and start getting featured. And obviously I have my program. You can go to prstarterpack.com. What's most important though is that you understand that your business needs you to start doing this. And just like everything else, yes, it might take time, but you're learning a skill. I think a lot of times people are like, oh, it's just too much work. So then they go back to social media, hoping to go viral, and it's still work. We're all doing this work, but how can you work a little bit smarter? How can you build something that's going to give you a long-term asset? And so PR and learning how to position and building relationships with the media, to me, is a much higher leverage activity than just spending 6 months on Instagram, hoping that you're going to get a couple sales.
Yeah, I mean, I teach a proven social media strategy, so I can't say I fully agree with that, but I do think that everybody needs to do what is right for them. And if you don't like social media, you don't need to be there. And if you're ready to add another element of marketing, then add PR. Why not layer these things in? You spoke before about how they all feed each other, right? And like a press placement helps you on Instagram, and like the press placement helps you in SEO, like you said, it can become a marketing ecosystem.
Yeah, it's not a one and done. So social media is great. What I love to do is get on a podcast and then repurpose that into 20 pieces of different content for social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here, Gloria. This is honestly so inspirational and exciting. Like my creative wheels are turning.
Thank you for having me, Jenna.